Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kyra here with another Guardian Tales video. And in today's video, I want to break down Orca here. This is the new character on the KR server, so I'm 2 weeks in advance of all the people that are playing on the NA server here looking at this character. So we have a lot of benefits of being on NA because we get to take a look at this character early, see how good this character is, and decide if we're going to pull for this character or not. So I'm going to be breaking down the character's kit and then what game modes they're going to be viable in, and then also whether or not should you pull for this character. Before we get into this video, if we can get a like on this video, that'd be awesome. Also subscribe to the channel for more Guardian Tales content. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So I think a really good place to start here is going to be on the base stats and also what kind of party skill that this character brings, because I think that's going to really speak to us on exactly what they're going for with this character. So the base stats here on 1127 attack is pretty high. Definitely not the highest, but it's definitely higher than average when it comes to attack, and a low base defense. So we're looking at a ranged character here that is looking to do a ton of damage, but kind of be a glass cannon. And then we have the party skill of 50% ranged attack. So that's a really good generic party buff that I'm a big fan of because of just, it allows you to be flexible in what kind of elements and what kind of characters you get to use. If it's like 50% water, then you're really stuck to just water characters. Whereas the 50% ranged, it allows you to have a whole bunch of different elements in there, a whole bunch of different ranged characters. I like these buffs a lot more. You can be a lot more creative. Camille, for example, he's splashed in with a whole bunch of other teams. A couple other ones would be Tinia and Nari. Both characters, or all three of those characters, have the 50% range buff, and all three of those characters are used in a wide range of elements. So great characters. This is off to a good start here. We have high base attack. It's a damaged character giving himself or giving herself 50% range attack here. So off to a good start here, even though kind of a glass cannon. Normal attack is Annihilation, uses her gun and grenades to inflict damage to enemies, which means that's just showing what the attack animation is. And when we see it, when you're pulling for her, she attacks twice and then throws a grenade. So I think the important thing to think about here is how her damage is going to be distributed through her auto attack. A lot of characters have their damage in the front part. Some of them have it throughout. Some of them have it kind of at the end. And ideally in an arena style environment, you're going to want it front loaded. You're going to want those two shots to be the high damage and the grenade to be less. Whereas if she's actually doing a ton of damage at the end of her animation, I would say that's really bad in a arena environment, but not going to matter too much in other game modes because you're going to have the time to actually do the full animation. It's really not going to matter. In arena, it definitely does matter. And examples of characters that have front-loaded damage would be like Rue and Future Princess. I think those are really important things to think about when it comes to this character, but it's going to take testing. And I don't have this character until the NA version of this patch goes live, so it's going to be a while until I get to test it, but I'm going to try to look at other people's videos and see so we can kind of get a better idea later down the line. Mine Toss here throws a homing mine to inflict damage on a hit. It decreases enemies' water type resistance by 20% for 4 seconds. So this is a great debuff to have, but it does pigeonhole you to a particular element. So it kind of takes away from the versatility of this character, but at the same time, it's so powerful that you're going to really want to have this debuff on your team. It just means you're going to have a mono element. And characters like this, Mayriel usually is always in an earth team. Beth is usually always in a dark team, stuff like that. But it's still very powerful, so it's really worth mentioning. And then another question we have without testing is going to be, how strong is this mine anyway? Does it do a ton of damage? Is it like an auto attack? If it does a ton of damage, that's going to be a really big deal in scenarios where the AI comes into play and you can actually make sure that you hit all your mines. So things that are also going to need testing before we can get a true idea of just how good she is. Her chain skill, which is airborne to downed, and then cuts enemies with a knife to deal 350% DPS damage. I think this is just a good generic high percentage damage move that she's going to have high damage because of her high base attack there. So that's really good to know. And then the Fin Tactics special ability increases defense by 30% for 5 seconds while using Mine Toss. So it has to activate it with her second ability there in Mine Toss, and it's 30% defense of a pretty low base defense. Not going to be too much, but it's going to be important in an environment like Arena where you need to actually have some damage mitigation to be viable there. So I think it could be okay, but nothing too crazy because of her low base defense. Then she has increases attack by 10% for 3 additional seconds for each mine that hits enemies. This effect overlaps up to 3 times. I think this is great, especially in situations where you can force people to actually hit those mines, and it's going to, matter on how much those mines actually do. But just in general, a character with high base attack that is increasing their attack percentage is always a good thing. I think this is a good segue to her exclusive weapon, because this stacks up to 3 times. How do you get more mines? And that's going to be through her exclusive weapon here. Throws 2 additional mines when using Mine Toss, and then on hit reduces the skill regen time of Mine Toss by 0.5 seconds. And I think this is important to keep in mind. A character that is very similar to this is Lilith, whereas Lilith has a special ability that decreases defense, just generic defense, but her exclusive weapon gives that cooldown reduction on that special ability here. This is something very similar to that, where she's reducing the spike, the darkness spike, down to 5 seconds. But this one, it reduces it a little different, where it's going to be per mine hit is going to reduce the cooldown by 0.5 seconds each. And it could be 3 mines. So that's a 1.5 second reduction there. I think that's very good, especially if those mines actually hit really hard. So I think this is a pretty cool exclusive weapon. I think it's a creative way to have a very similar style ability there to Lilith. So I'm a fan of that, even though I'm not a fan of having so much of characters' kits put into their exclusive weapon. But at the same time, you really want it to be powerful too, so it's kind of just going to be one of those things. It is what it is. So I think this is a good weapon here, especially based on that ability. And then we have the special ability here, where it throws special liquid bombs to inflict damage and puts enemies in airborne state. So looking at her weapon skill, I watched a couple of videos in Arena, and it's a very slow animation, and people can outrun it. It does 200% attack damage, so it's okay. But in an Arena environment, I think it's going to be pretty lackluster to be able to hit that. I think weapon skills are very important. A lot of characters base their entire, how good they are based on how good their weapon skill is. So slow attack animation weapon skill is really going to be a nail in the coffin on just how good they're going to be in Arena, in my opinion. There's a lot of good fire characters out there, and if she has good matchups against other fire characters, I can see her actually being pretty good as a niche pick to counter them. But at the moment, I'm not a big fan of her as an Arena character. Right here, I think this is a really cool special ability where you get the extra mines here, reduces the cooldown of it. Another thing we have to test is just how big the cooldown is. I think, if anything, talking about these characters, they're doing us a disservice by not giving us enough information on these character descriptions. It should show us exactly how much the cooldown reduction is. It should show us how much damage it does. It should tell us, like, oh, it's 100% of attack. I don't understand why we need to test all these things and see all these things when it should just be explained to us on the character. So now that we get an idea what this character is, what kind of game modes do you think she's going to be good at? And I think from an Arena perspective, looking at Arena, looking at the meta, we have a lot of good Earth heroes, which is bad, but we also have a lot of good Fire heroes. And they're also full Fire teams. So you're going to hit the entire lineup there with the Water characters. So if you find a character that's actually good in Arena, you're going to have a lot of success there. And it's a generic 50% ranged attack party buff. So you're not pigeonholing yourself into a Water style element. So I can see her bringing a pretty effective counter to the Fire team, while also boosting other characters on her team there. Like maybe you can still bring Mayriel, who brings a crit buff and is a ranged character, takes advantage of that 50% attack, but then doesn't get super hard countered by that Fire team. You can have her in the beginning, and then you just take out a couple Fire characters there because she's Water versus Fire, as an example. But looking at the other parts of her kit with the slow weapon attack animation, kind of squishy, she might not actually take out as many characters as you would like to, if you're going to be taking in that hard counter element into an Arena environment. So I think that's going to take some testing to really know just what her place is going to be in Arena. But at the moment, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking kind of she has a decent typing at this point because there's so many Fire teams, but there's also so many Earth teams. So I think in general, you're probably going to run into a lot more Camille's than you're going to be running into these full Fire teams. So it's pretty niche. And just having a character that is a weird, counter to the meta is not a good indication of a character's viability, in my opinion. But I think where she's really going to excel is going to be raiding. And there's a couple questions, in my opinion, that if she's going to be a character for raiding, currently the Water team right now is Garam, Tinia, Camille, and Coco. And it's one of the best raid teams, if not the best, when it comes to raw damage that you could possibly get. So if this character is going to be for raiding and is going to be good there, and is a Water character on a Water team, and that team is already the best, is she worth pulling for? And maybe it's going to open up some of those other characters, because a lot of them are pretty generic. You'll be able to maybe get your Camille back, maybe get your Tinia back for the Earth team. Maybe you'll be able to open up a whole nother team. But maybe Yuze and her can make a team. I'm not sure. But even if she finds a way to be with Garam, or maybe she's the main character on that team, you actually have to pilot her because of her bombs, and her bombs do a ton of damage. All these things we don't know. Even if that's the case, how many people are actually going to pull for a character that is going to be, if they're already water, if they already have a good water team, and it's already the best damage, if not, is one of the best, if not the best damage, how important is it to find another character that kind of makes it a little better? And then it's going to be pretty tough to make it that much better. But also testing this, not many people are going to be able to test this because this is on the KR server. They're going to already need to be in a good raid. People have tested the raid at the moment with not her in mind. So there's just not that many people that can actually test this at the moment. So to be able to see this, I won't be able to test this for another 2 weeks. But these are just kind of questions that come to mind, even though she has all this stuff on paper to be a good character for raiding. And she has all this stuff on paper to be like decent in arena, in my opinion. But it's going to be tough for me to decide at this point right now. I don't think she's a pull because she's competing with the best raid team, and she seems decent in a earth dominated arena meta that even if she was incredible, she's still going to be countered a lot of the time. And I'm seeing a character that seems decent at best, decent to maybe good is my opinion of Orca as a character. So at the moment, it's a skip. So if you're on the KR server, you have 11 days to think about this. And for people to actually test her in raiding and test her in arena if she's actually going to be good. And then if you're on the NA server, you have almost a month. Those are the things that I'm thinking about at the moment when it comes to Orca. I'm seeing a character that has potential, but it's going to take a lot of very specific testing for us to know just how good she's going to be as a character. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Orca as the unit. Is she good, bad? Should we skip? Do you think she's going to actually have a place in raiding, have a place in arena? I'm really curious to hear you guys' thoughts here. And with that, guys, I am out. Peace.